welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my first ever mid-year book tag, also known as the mid-year book freakout tag. I don't know who created this because this has been around for over a decade on YouTube, so I can't source that, but I'm answering the same questions that everyone answers. So let's get started. My favorite book of the year. This is so hard. This is such a hard question. So far this year, I have read 47 books. So of the 47, that's so difficult to pick out a favorite. So I'm gonna pick out two favorites. Sorry. I do think that my favorite book of the year, I'm basing this, I think, primarily on the way that it made me feel and the joy that I felt and how badly I wanted to both speed through this book and just didn't want to put it down, but also how badly I didn't want it to be over. And for that, I think I have to say Mother of Death and Dawn by Chris Broadbent. It's so good. I just talked about it in my monthly wrap-up. So go check that out if you want to hear some more in-depth thoughts, though obviously it's not super in-depth because it is the end of a trilogy. I would highly recommend reading this trilogy as soon as you can. It's amazing. And then for my second favorite book of the year, I'm gonna go nonfiction, and I just finished this book this morning, and that is Under the Banner of Heaven by Jon Krakauer. This is just a really perfect recipe for me when it comes to nonfiction. As I said, when I read Into the Wilds, I think Krakauer does a really good job of providing a very, all-encompassing perspective of a situation. Well, also, not in this book, but in the other one, he was including kind of some more personal experiences. This book does not involve his personal experiences because it is about Mormonism, and I don't believe that he is or has ever been Mormon, so he doesn't have those personal experiences. Under the Banner of Heaven is easily my favorite nonfiction that I've read this year. I can't wait to pick up the rest of Krakauer's novels. I'm very excited, and I have plans to go to one of my favorite used bookstores and hopefully pick up a copy of Under the Banner of Heaven imminently, very, very soon. I can't wait to annotate it and hopefully lend it to people and see who is willing to read it in my life, because it's really a very interesting history. I'm not going to get too far into it because I'll talk about it in my July wrap-up, because unfortunately I finished it on the 2nd of July, so got a long time until I'm going to be able to really talk a lot about it, but that's okay. The next question kind of ties with this one because it is best sequel, and Mother of Death and Dawn is the third in a trilogy, so it is my favorite sequel of the year. However, there's another good contender, which is And Now Back to You by B.K. Borse. And I talked about this extensively the month that I read it, whatever month that was, I don't remember. I loved this book, 5 stars. And I'm not a huge romance reader. I like reading a romance occasionally because I think that they're nice to kind of break up the reads I normally read, because I don't feel like I read a whole lot of things that are lighthearted necessarily. So I like them as little break reads. So I really loved And Now Back to You, even more than First Time Caller, and I really loved First Time Caller as well. I can't wait for Long Time Listener, but I digress. Those are my two favorite sequels of the year, for sure. Okay, I do have the questions pulled up because I'm not going to remember 13 questions off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I just can't do that, and I don't think most of you could do that either. I don't know why I said that. That felt really aggressive. It's fine. It's fine. Okay, number 3 is new release I haven't read yet, but I want to. This was kind of hard for me because I feel like I'm taking new release as a 2026 release that I haven't read yet. And this was kind of hard because I feel like a lot of those books I have read, like, pretty quickly. Like, I have a list in my reading journal of what I was anticipating the most for this year. Obviously, at the time of the beginning of the year, the things that had been announced. And I'll get into some more of those later, too. But I would say that something that came out this year that I haven't read yet that I would love to get to is A Stage Set for Villains. I can't remember who this is by, but it will be on screen anyway. I just think this sounds so unique and so interesting. I know that I feel like the reviews have been somewhat mixed, but leaning positive for sure. I have seen from the people that I follow who have read this book, most of them have enjoyed it a lot, and it just sounds really unique and interesting to me. And I also love theater. I'm a big fan of theater, so a fantasy that is based in theater sounds so cool to me. I don't honestly know a whole lot more about it beyond that, because as I've said before, I kind of like to go in with a very minimal understanding of what a book is, usually. So I don't know extensively what it's about, but that is my understanding of the plot, and I think that is the newest release that I haven't read yet, that I want to read. That came out, I believe, maybe 2-ish months ago. The months have gone by so quickly. That could be wrong, but it obviously came out in 2026. The next question is, what is my most anticipated release for the rest of the year? And let me tell you, Scorpion Deep by C.G. Drews. Scorpion Deep by C.G. Drews. I am very afraid of the ocean. I'm, like, phobic. Like, I actually, like, have thalassophobia. I'm very, very afraid of the ocean, and also just actually any man-made body, not man-made, natural body of water, I'm very afraid of. I don't like that. I don't like that, but I'm a big horror enjoyer, obviously, so I love to watch things that evoke my fears. That is just, I'm just like that. That's what I'm into. So to have a queer horror that has a sea monster in it, and that's the extent of my knowledge. The cover is stunning. I cannot wait to have this on my bookshelf. I'm so excited. Also, C.G. Drews is cooking. Like, C.G. Drews has so many novels on the ready that are coming, and I can't wait. I can't wait to read all of them and to own all of them. I really need to. I don't own any of the books the 3 books by them that I have read thus far in physical, and I am actively looking for used copies online that are reasonably priced. So that's really exciting. I'm definitely very, very, very excited for Scorpion Deep. That's probably my number 1. But a close second is Public Access Afterward, or is it Afterworld? Afterworld, I think, by Jane. I have no idea how to say their last name. The director of I Saw the TV Glow. I'm so excited. Beautiful cover again. I'm just a girl. I care about the cover. The cover is stunning. I love their work. I think this is going to be so unique. Like, I don't know the plot at all, but knowing them and the work they have done, I think it's probably going to be a very original story, and I'm so stoked for that. I don't know the release date of that either. I believe that Scorpion Deep comes out in September, maybe, and I'm not sure on Public Access Afterworld. Also, great title. Fantastic title. Definitely gonna get a physical copy of that as well. So yeah, those are definitely my 2 most anticipated releases. Most of these questions say, like, 1, like, what is your most? I can't give you 1. And do you even want 1? Don't you want to hear more options? More things to add to your list? I would want to hear more. So, anyway, number 5 is my biggest disappointment of the year, and unfortunately, I, again, have 2. I pretty much have 2 answers for a lot of these questions, but I would unfortunately say The Wax Child by Olga Raven. I just was really, really excited about this book. It sounded like it was going to be right up my alley and everything that I would want and more, and unfortunately, it was kind of a slog for me. Like, it kind of was boring. I talked about it when I read it, but I just thought that it could have been more intriguing. I think it could have been I think it could have had a stronger actual plot. Like, I feel like it was very, very reliant on the atmosphere and the vibes and energy in the setting, which were all really cool, but I think it's really, really hard for that to carry a book, and I do kind of feel like that was carrying The Wax Child. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. And then my other most disappointing read, and this was less disappointing to me than The Wax Child, let me make that clear. The Wax Child was definitely my number one most disappointing read of the year. But second, I would say Vanishing World by Sayaka Murata was disappointing to me. I still thought it was good, but it was certainly my least favorite of her works. I just felt like it fell a little flat for me. It didn't feel like it was saying as much as it could, but at the same time, I feel like it was kind of... I think it was kind of saying too much. I think it could have shown more and said less. It was a little bit kind of feeding the reader. It kind of felt like they thought we were stupid. And I didn't appreciate that very much. I just think this could have been a much more interesting... She could have done something more interesting with the plot. But it's okay. It's been longer since I read this since The Wax Child, so I don't remember as much about how I felt about it, but it was one of my lowest rated books of the year so far. Granted, it was still a 3-star, but I also haven't discussed this here. I was just talking to my sister about this, but to me, my rating system, if you are wondering, the way that I see things is in math. To me, a 3-star is a 60%. So that, like, there are people online who I know to them a 3-star is like, that was a good book. I would recommend that. I am like, 60% is barely a passing grade to me. I wouldn't recommend it, probably, to anyone unless I know their specific taste and I think it would work better for them than it did for me. To me, 3 stars, like I said, that's a 60%. 4 stars is an 80%. And so that's why a lot of my ratings tend to fall in that 4-star area, because that's like an 80. And an 80 is like is a great grade, but it's not perfect. There's still space to improve upon, all the things. Everyone understands the way that grades work. So yeah, that was a little small spiel about my rating system. This is probably going to be a long video. This is probably going to take me longer to edit than I thought. It's okay. It's totally okay. Okay, let's move on to my biggest surprise, which was definitely Carnality by Lena Wolf, which I checked out from my local library. I had never heard anyone talk about it before. I had never seen any reviews. I just kind of came across it. I don't even remember how I came across it, because I didn't find it at the library. I went to the library knowing that I was looking for it. I can't recall how I originally discovered the book, but I really liked this book, and I really want to see more people read it. I feel like it's severely under the radar. It is about this weird underground television show and this guy and this woman who just invites him into her house, and they have a conversation about this weird show that he was on and how his life was basically destroyed. And it is so interesting, and I just was really surprised, only because I thought I was going to like it a lot. Don't get me wrong, I sought it out for a reason, but obviously I think it is human nature to be a little bit more skeptical about a book and a little bit less expectant of good things if you haven't heard good things. I think everyone feels that way. So I was really, really happily surprised with Carnality by Lena Wolf. The next question is my favorite new author, either debut or new to me. I would say for sure, this is hard. Again, I have two. Carissa Broadbent, which I've said enough. Carissa Broadbent and Frederick Bachman, which obviously they are both incredibly popular authors, but they were new to me this year. It was my first time reading both of them, and I'm not going to be stopping anytime soon. I definitely am going to be reading everything that they have both released. I don't think I need to say more, considering that they are not new to the reader space. Neither of them are debut authors. The next question is my newest fictional crush. Again, I have 2 answers for this, and they're drastically different. One, the obvious answer, Maxentarius Farlione from the War of Lost Hearts trilogy. How could you not? How could you not be crushing on him? How could you not be crushing on him? I don't even know. I don't even have anything else to really say about that. He is just... He's a great character. His character development in the arc that he follows, especially in the first book alone, he has a really good character arc. And I think the way that Tasana changes him in a good way, like not in a bad way at all. The way that they grow together, oh my goodness. So I guess really the answer to that is not necessarily just my new fictional crush. It's kind of like my new favorite ship, I guess, would actually really be the question I'm answering with that. So as for like a crush, it's definitely Lori from Almost Life. I want that girl bad. Yeah. Unfortunately, she's just my type. Definitely Lori. She is definitely a very complicated character, and I think that is part of why I connected to her so much, because especially with Almost Life in general, because it's not a romance book, I think that a lot of romance books can really focus too much on the good or too much on the bad, but I think Almost Life feels like a really good medium where you're getting a real amount of that person that you would probably realistically get if you knew that individual. I really, really loved this book and also really loved her as a character. Almost Life, honestly, is definitely probably in my top 5 of the year so far. Though it's been a really, really good reading year for me. I've read a lot of really, really good books this year. So overall, this is a difficult challenge. The end of the year, I don't even want to think about having to consider my top 10 books of the year. It's going to be incredibly difficult. I can't even imagine that, quite frankly. It's just so hard. It's so hard. The next question is my newest favorite character, which is also so hard. That's so hard. But for this, I think it's between Samarin from the War of Lost Hearts trilogy and Louisa from My Friends by Frederick Bachman. They're so different, obviously. Totally different books, totally different characters. Samarin, I just thought he was really, like, a really great character in the sense that he provided really good comic relief, but he also felt like a really real person with real passions and, like, what felt like real joy in his character, and throughout his arc, his friendships were really strong, and I really liked him as a character, and I would, in a theoretical world, love to get more of his story. We're obviously not going to be getting that, but I really would love that. I would love to hear more of his backstory so badly. But, though I guess in Ash and Sun, I'm sure that there probably is some more about him. I'm unsure about picking up Ash and Sun. I'm not sure if I want to or not. I don't think anyone, like, really raves about it. I honestly haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it, because obviously it's, like, it doesn't have a physical release or anything, and I believe it's just a novella. I don't think it's very long. But maybe there's more backstory to him there. But otherwise, Louisa from My Friends, she's just a really charming character to me. She's really funny. Has a really, like strong story and strong sense of who she is. And I really enjoy that in a character. Like, I think she really, for someone being so young as she is, she's freshly 18 in the novel, I feel like she has, a really strong sense of who she is and who she wants to be. That sense of who she wants to be really develops throughout the novel, but I just really like her as a character. She's very charming and really funny. And then the next question is a book that made me cry. Let's go back to My Friends by Frederick Bachman. That book made me sob. We're getting a lot of repetitive answers in this because my other answer would be Mother of Death and Dawn. Also made me sob. But My Friends by Frederick Bachman definitely made me cry the most out of all of the books that I have read so far this year. Anxious People, though, did make me cry a lot as well. Frederick Bachman is definitely up there for activating my tear ducts. If you want a good cry, like a genuinely a good cry, not like a sad cry, it's like my heart is so warmed, I can't even believe that these people aren't real kind of cry, definitely go for Frederick Bachman. Definitely go for Frederick Bachman. And this also almost ties in again to the next question, which is a book that made me happy, because I would also answer My Friends to that. Like, it did make me really happy in a lot of parts, but to give you a different answer, I would also say And Now Back to You by B.K. Borson. I'm talking about like the same 5 books, which I think says a lot about what my favorite things this year have been. But And Now Back to You is just like pure joy to me. That book is just like pure happiness. I really need to watch When Harry Met Sally. I haven't seen it. I really need to watch it. But I think it's a fall movie, if I'm not mistaken, so maybe I'll be watching it in the fall. I could watch it now and just kind of get excited for fall. I'm already excited for fall. I hate the summer. Summer's my least favorite season of the year. I don't do well in the heat. I don't like it at all. So I'm really impatiently waiting for it to be fall. So maybe I will watch it. But And Now Back to You is definitely, like, I would say the book that made me feel the most, like, pure joy. I just really love that couple so much. I think, again, B.K. Borson does a really good job of making characters that feel realistic, but not, like, too realistic. Like, it still feels like escapism, and it still feels like a romance book that will have a happily ever after, like, of course. And I definitely really liked this, and I can't wait to see even more how much, I hope that there is a good amount of these characters in the 3rd book. There was a good amount of Lucy and Aiden in And Now Back to You, so I'm really hoping that there is a good amount of the couple from And Now Back to You, whose names I can't remember, in Longtime Listener, because I would love to see, because it's so interesting, because it's almost like getting another epilogue, because they're, like, we're getting to see them, like, where they next are on their journey as a couple, just kind of in snippets in the background of another person's story, and I'm so stoked. I'm so excited. We only have 2 questions left. Maybe this video won't be ridiculously long. I don't know how long I've been filming, quite frankly. I have no idea. But we're gonna find out. So, the most beautiful book that I have bought so far this year, I think, is between the War of Lost Hearts trilogy and The Wax Child by Olga Raven, which, holy dichotomy, by the way. War of Lost Hearts trilogy being some of my favorite books I've read this year, and The Wax Child by Olga Raven being my most disappointing book of the year. It still is beautiful, like, I do stand by that. Obviously, the cover is stunning. It almost, though, now makes me sad to look at it, because this is such a beautiful cover, and I wish that the inside made me feel the same way, and it didn't. So, it's okay. It's not the end of the world. But those are definitely my favorites. I just absolutely am obsessed with the reissues of the War of Lost Hearts trilogy. They just are stunning. Like, the artwork is beautiful. I actually really want to look into who designed those covers, and I want to see if they have done other covers, because I'm so curious to see what else they've done, and if there's anything else that I would want on my bookshelf. So, yeah, those are definitely the most beautiful books that I have bought this year. And then the last question is, what books do I need to read by the end of the year? This is really hard. I'm gonna say I have, like, 2 that I feel very strongly that one of them is on my 26 to read in 2026. The obvious answer to this is everything else that's left on my yearly TBR, which is like 13, which is like half of it. Like 13 books are left on my yearly TBR. But in addition to that, my absolute number 1 book that I cannot wait to read this year, and definitely want to read by the end of this year, is Interview with the Vampire by Anne Rice, which I have discussed already on this channel. I finally was able to get a physical copy of used, that I love. I really didn't want the new editions. I just really wanted something with the charm of an old mass market paperback, and I was able to get that. I'm so excited. But I last year watched the Interview with the Vampire movie for the first time, and I loved it so much. I really, really, really loved it. It's so up my alley aesthetically and narratively. I really, really loved it, and I have been really into vampires. Recently, I've read a couple vampire books this year, and I really want to read more vampire books. Speaking of Carissa Broadbent, Slaying the Vampire Conqueror, I am coming for you. I'm coming for you. I'm so excited. But Interview with the Vampire is definitely my number one that I really, really, really want to make sure that I get to this fall. Secondly, my book from my yearly TBR that I feel like I really definitely 100% must get to. And I think that I'm really going to hold myself to my yearly TBR, so I do think that I'm going to get to all of what's left on it. Wishful thinking. But I really think I'll hold myself to it because I'm going to beat myself up if I don't finish it. But Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. I have only read one other Brandon Sanderson, which was Tress of the Emerald Sea, and I loved that. I know that it's controversial among people who love Brandon Sanderson because it is very different from a lot of what he writes, being more cozy and less high stakes, less high fantasy. But I really adored that book, and Yumi and the Nightmare Painter has such a unique premise, and I really also love, you know what I really love is the original cover of this, the, like, Patreon cover that people who got the first copies of the secret novels were able to get. I want that edition so bad. It's so beautiful, but anyway, definitely Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I mean, generally speaking, I really want to read more Brandon Sanderson. If you have read Brandon Sanderson, let me know what your favorite is. I know that most people say if you, like, really want to get into the Cosmere, start with Mistborn. But I'm unsure about Mistborn because I'm really picky about male narrators and male protagonists in books. So I'm not sure if that's where I want to start or not. I've heard that Warbreaker is really, really good, and that's a standalone. I do think that I'm going to stick to the Brandon Sanderson standalones first, just because I don't know if I want to dive all the way in yet to the Cosmere. But let me know if you have any very strong prevailing thoughts about where to go in the Brandon Sanderson universe. But anyway, that is the end of this tag. At least the questions that I found and the questions that I feel like I remember people answering. I hope I'm not missing anything, but I believe that that is the typical questions that people answer in this tag. But oh my goodness, it has been an amazing first 6 months of this year for my reading. I am so excited for the latter half of this year and for the releases that are coming. There's so many releases I want to read. There's so many releases I want to purchase. I am so grateful for this reading year, let me tell you. I'm so grateful. I'm so excited to see how many books I read too. I actually only set my goal at 54 because I want to set a goal that's realistic for me that I can actually reach. And my goal is really just, I just want to be reading at least one book a week like that. And if I can't reach that, that's okay. Obviously at this point I'm going to reach that. But that was my original goal because I'm going into my last semester of college, so my reading's definitely going to slow down in the latter half of this year, so I wanted to be realistic. But yeah, as we currently stand, I'm at 47 books, so I'm curious. It would be really cool if I could reach 100 books. I'm not going to set that expectation for myself because I don't want to disappoint myself if I don't reach it. But I might change my goal to maybe like 75. I think I can definitely reach 75. But yeah, let me know. I would really love to know what your favorite book you've read this year is. If you want to answer any of the other questions in the comments, be my guest. But I would love to hear what your favorite books of this year have been in the comments. Thank you so much for hanging out. Thank you so much for being in my corner of the internet. I hope you have a great rest of your day, morning, evening, afternoon, night, whatever time it is, whenever you are watching this and wherever you are. Thank you so much for hanging out. Like, comment, subscribe if you like me and you want to see more of me.